YouTube, and welcome to my review of Batman, the 1989 Tim Burton version. I haven't been able to do a film review for some time as a result of health issues, and after what has been a lengthy hiatus, I thought I should start with this. I have recently had a pacemaker operation, and my epilepsy has made me exhausted, but I am tenacious, so I thought reviewing a film would be a good idea. Being bionic has its challenges. Anyway, as this is not a video about my ailments, I shall start. It seems that Burton's envisioning of Batman and his subsequent films concerning the comic book character are the most popular of all the Batmans. I conducted a very unscientific survey, and it appears that Michael Keaton is the most popular Batman. Everybody seems to have their favourite Batman, Bond and Spider-Man. Tim Burton's Batman was my introduction to the Batman franchise. It is my husband's favourite version, and subsequently I watched The Dark Knight around the same time. I liked the latter enormously, but I feel Heath Ledger's inimitable portrayal of the Joker as a supporting role really secured its memorable element for me, as opposed to Christian Bale's Batman, which I felt was a little glossy. Batman made his debut appearance in 1939 in Detective Comics, which was a DC Comics publication and was the invention of Bob Kane. Kane had wanted to invent a further character after seeing how successful Superman was. It was welcomed by the public and had a substantial fan base. The story featured the Batman knocking his nemesis into a vat of acid. Batman is the alias of Bruce Wayne and was also a part of this comic, although portrayed as bland. Bruce Wayne is an everyman in many ways, billionaire, philanthropist, and yet, despite his fortune, is a character who is quiet, pleasant and groomed, but not overly distinctive in his appearance. I would define him as the Sigma personality type, a popular, successful, modest man with the confidence to be self-reliant. Wayne's independence was a necessity after witnessing his parents' murder, and it created his moral compass, vowing to protect his city from the nefarious. Batman had a spin-off comic book series in 1940, and his character developed over the years with different versions, from the menacing original to the emerging admirable citizen. Moreover, Batman is a distinguishable superhero of sorts, in that he doesn't possess unique powers, but instead utilises his own intellect, his capital, and ability to fight. Dracula was an influence behind Batman, and it is emphasised in Burton's film. Batman was deemed to be the brainchild of cartoonist Bob Kane, and the character was developed by Bill Finger, who is the writer of the stories. However, it was Finger who created the instantaneously recognisable Batman, including his costume, his alias name, and even Gotham City, his home, which came from Gotham Jewelers, a name at random Finger spotted in the phone book. Kane said in a private interview that Finger was responsible for half to 3/4 of the Batman creation, and yet Finger always said he was more of an assistant supporter to Kane. Finger's persistent modesty meant that he lived a life juxtaposed to Kane's fame and fortune. Finger's granddaughter fought for his rightful recognition, and after many years, Bill Finger gained the acknowledgement, albeit posthumously, that he deserved by DC Comics' parent company, and his name from then on would be included in the credits under the title created by alongside Kane's. Tim Burton's Batman boasts a stellar cast, and there was a lot of inspiration from Batman comic books including the killing joke about, yes, you guessed it, the Joker, as the eminent director liked the dialogue between the comedic villain and Batman. The film makes substantial references to The Man Behind the Red Hood, which is a Batman comic book story, and when the reader is first introduced to the Joker. Caine was a consultant on the film, which is apt considering the plot. Michael Keaton, who plays Bruce Wayne, and thus also Batman, was an interesting casting and arguably a wild card, as Keaton was not known for sombre roles. When you contemplate Bill Murray was considered for the role, it would have been a totally different film. There was interest in Willem Dafoe to play Batman, who at the time was not famous, and these days his fame is rooted in more than his acting. Keaton was a perfect choice, despite the doubters, and there were many of them, as Keaton manages to be polished but not glossy, slightly awkward, yet likeable as Bruce Wayne, and as Batman he is menacing, but that vitriolic hatred is directed at the right people. Danny Elfman's score introduces the film, which is at first pounding and rich and then frantic. It is very fitting, simple yet effective. When I watched it, it reminded me of Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas film score, which was composed by Elfman, and also slightly reminiscent of the Home Alone score, which was again composed by Elfman, who has a distinctive style. Gotham City, which is a fictional addition to New Jersey, is a place which is comprised of Art Deco style buildings with a sprinkling of Art Nouveau, Corbusier's brutalism, Italian futurism, and Gothic overtones. Basically then, the voluptuous curves of Art Nouveau sat aside the rigid geometry of Art Deco, neighbouring imposing brutalist buildings juxtaposing neglected Gothic monstrosities, creating a chaos which was the intention. It's essentially a bit like the Palace of Westminster being stuck next to a generic brutalist style car park, and the set designer won an Oscar for his efforts. The set reminded me a little of Blade Runner and Fritz Lang's Metropolis, more so the latter. It looks foggy, frenzied, bleak and dystopian. Gotham is a city which is choking its residents, letting its seedy underbelly run amok. We see a family trying to hail a taxi, forcing themselves through the streets. The family are attacked, and Batman swoops in on the perpetrators, very much like Dracula. When an attacker pleads with him not to kill him, he says he won't, but he wants him to tell all his friends about me. A journalist, Alexander Knox, witnesses the crook on a stretcher and asks the detective, Eckhart, if the bat is involved, and he denies Batman's existence. Eckhart is the Machiavellian type and walks off to meet Jack Napier, the Gotham's mafia boss's assistant, played by Jack Nicholson, with whom he has monetary involvements. The viewer is under no illusion that Gotham City is run by the egregious. The mayor instructs District Attorney Harvey Dent and Commissioner Gordon to ameliorate the ill-doings by the mob boss Grissom. Napier is having an affair with his boss Grissom's girlfriend, played by Jerry Hall, and Napier is convinced he is oblivious to this. Yet for a man so intelligent, he has not given Grissom enough credit, and in retaliation he sets Napier up. Grissom instructs Napier to raid a chemical plant, which he is loath to do, not wanting to be a part of it, maybe because he is a chemist and knows the potential hazards that might occur. However, he leads the operation as instructed, whilst Grissom gives the authorities a tip-off in advance. The treacherous Eckhart is on the scene. On the same evening, Knox, the journalist, is keen to discover more about this bat-like creature who fights criminals, and so he joins forces with Vicky Vale, played by Kim Basinger, although Knox is perhaps more interested in Vale. They attend a fundraiser hosted by Gotham's philanthropist billionaire Bruce Wayne, who is also Batman, and yet when Knox asks Dent, who is a guest at the event, about this perceived to be supernatural creature, he is laughed at. Vale, by contrast, is having a better time of it, as she meets Wayne, who is instantaneously enamoured with her, and he asks her for dinner at his mansion. Alfred informs him of Napier's actions and the chemical plant, and he makes haste to try and curtail any skullduggery. At the chemical plant, Napier kills Eckhart, who was already on the scene, and Commissioner Gordon sees Batman, as does Napier. There is a fight between Batman and Napier, yet the Dark Knight tries to prevent him from falling into a vat of acid, and despite his best efforts, Napier does. Gordon wants Batman to be kept a secret, whilst his identity is a mystery to them, and it is assumed Napier has met his demise. Not so. Napier, now with a rather amusing yet ghastly countenance, has a rictus grin and is for the most part green in colour. Not one to be defeated and calling himself the Joker, he kills Grissom for his scheming at the chemical plant and makes himself head of his former boss's company and kills Grissom's acolytes. There is a vast amount of theatre with Napier as the Joker, and he gets all the best lines. His modus operandi is to poison the city using his toxic Smilex, a chemical which laces various beauty products, and when used in conjunction with each other, are fatal, causing the victim to die laughing. The attention to detail is superb. The newsreaders start to look dishevelled for fear of being poisoned. As this is a Burton film, there will be a humorous element to it. The Joker makes an attack on the Flugelheim Museum, targeting Degas to the Dutch masters, with Prince's high-octane vocals accompanying him. He uses his chemical warfare on the gallery, trying to get Vicky Vale in the process, but like a winged whirlwind, Batman saves her, allowing her to see the Batcave, and explains what Smilex is all about and how the devastation can be avoided. Alfred, Bruce Wayne's wise butler and confidant, thinks he should be making more of an effort with Vale. Wayne is perhaps difficult to get to know on a non-superficial level, and of course there is the issue of being Batman. Bruce agrees and visits Vicky's apartment, but his visit is punctuated by the Joker, who asks him if he has ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight. Something about this sentence seems to bother Bruce. However, there is the more pressing matter of him having the Joker pointing his gun at him and pulling the trigger. His life is saved by a tray under his shirt, but the Joker, not noticing that Bruce has left, does the same soon after, leaving a very puzzled Vicky. At the Batcave, whilst reading the dossier he has on Napier, Bruce thinks about that rather bizarre sentence the Joker uttered, knowing he has heard it before and tries to place it. He then makes the connection. The man who said it was the same man who killed his parents in a random attack after leaving the cinema when he was a child. Alfred, the matchmaker, invites Vicky to the Batcave, and it is then that Bruce reveals he is indeed Batman, but presses pause on any romance between them until he prevents the Joker from killing any more citizens. As Batman, he destroys the chemical plant, yet the Joker has planned to have a street party with him on a float. with balloons filled with Smilex. He gets as far as this, but Batman intercepts him and removes his balloons with his snazzy Batwing. The Joker shoots the Batwing and it crashes in front of a neglected cathedral, giving the deranged Joker an opportunity to force Vicky inside the fortified building. Batman manages to pursue them to the Belfry, and it is then that Batman tells the Joker he knows it was him who killed his parents, creating Batman as a result, and the Joker then joins the dots and knows Batman is Bruce Wayne. I will not reveal the ending, as is the pattern with my reviews, but it is a great film and I enjoyed it more when I watched it again, and I would recommend it. Ray Liotta was approached for the roles of Batman, Harvey Dent and the Joker, but turned all offers down. It would have been a very different film, I think. Batman nearly said I am the Knight, as in line with the comic, but Keaton suggested he introduced his character at the beginning of the film, and he also came up with the idea of having a different voice to that of Bruce Wayne. The voice was only different when he wore the Batsuit. Speaking of the famous Batsuit, which I think is the best of all Batsuits, as the curvatures even match the architecture, Michael Keaton is claustrophobic, and the Batsuit was difficult for him, but Burton said this was advantageous, as it affected the actor's mood, aiding his broody persona as Batman. Remember when I said that this reminded me of Blade Runner? Well, Anton Furst, Batman's talented production designer, prohibited his team from watching the iconic piece of cinema during its design stage. Blade Runner featured Harrison Ford and lots of urban gloominess, and there are similarities, although it was a decade that witnessed lots of rather anti-utopian type films. Neon was not used either, as it may have been considered similar to Blade Runner. Actually, I think it works. The mostly monochrome appearance of Gotham suits the story. Jack Napier's name is a tribute to Jack Nicholson and the surname of an actor who played Alfred, Alan Napier. The writing on the note given to Vicky at the Flugelheim Museum was Tim Burton's. The Joker spouts the humour in contrast to Batman's solemn, gravelly tone. It feels like a battle between people who are ultimately on the edge of society, peering in, although of course Batman is unequivocally good. Right, I'll be in my Bat cave if anybody wants me. I hope you enjoyed my review and thanks very much for watching.